Hello, this is Ryan McDonald at Shade Digital, and this is Creating a Digital Marketing Agency number 6. And in this episode, I want to go over giving away time to people who are maybe hopeless, right? WPP Martin Sorrell, longtime CEO, leaving. Screaming Frog SEO, badass software tool, and closing analytics gaps. All right. So first thing I want to touch on is giving away time. So, when you've been in this industry for a while, people, you work with people, right? You work with people. So people I've worked with in the past, or people who I've met at conferences, etc. You just get to know people just through being in the same office, being in the same town, being in the same industry, all that sort of good stuff. So when I started my digital marketing agency, Shade Digital, my first few clients were referrals, and that's great. And why is that great? Because they pay, right? When you get a client, that's great because they pay. They pay for your office, they pay, your expenses, they pay your wages, etc. The clients are how you make money. But you have a whole nother group of people who maybe you worked with in the past, or people who know you, and maybe you were giving away free advice. I certainly was. I would give away free advice to people. I would do work for free sometimes just because they're friends, right? I would give them the friend discount, and didn't really think a whole lot of it because I was working in-house or I was working someplace else. Didn't have to worry. But once you start your own agency, and now that advice, that knowledge, that work is how you get paid. It's how you pay the bills. You still get people coming to you who were getting free advice before, who's expecting it to continue. And that's an awkward conversation to have. It'd be like if I had it's like a lawyer giving away free advice, free legal advice. And I have no problem, right? Obviously, because I have, 22 digital marketing tips published, another 16 blogs published. I'm constantly putting out free content and whatnot. But it's the work aspect, actually doing the work for free. You can't tolerate that anymore when you have your own agency, and people will still want you to, and it'll be people that are closest to you are going to want you to do that. And then there's a whole nother side of people who come to you but are hopeless or confused or clueless. I don't know how one would put that, but as an example, I got this guy. This guy calls me up, and I do performance-based pricing. I call it eat what you kill pricing, and that's like revenue share agreements, cost per sale agreements, or cost per lead agreements. And people love it because it builds in some sort of like guarantee. Like, I only pay when you generate a sale for me, right? When the traffic you generate gets a sale, or I only pay per lead, right? So people like that because it builds in some sort of guarantee. But I got this guy calling me up, and he had a $250 ebook for sale. Let me repeat that. A $250 ebook for sale. When was the last time you saw a physically printed book worth $250? Right? And typically ebooks are priced cheaper than normal books because there's no printing, there's no shipping costs. So people price ebooks cheaper than physical books, as they should. Oh, excuse me. I'm sure that was great listening to. And so he calls me up, and he has $100 a month to spend. And I just know, listen, you can't do anything for $100 a month in spend. You just can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can do stuff, but it's so limited and such a small budget, it is not worth paying someone for, right? my minimum monthly fee is going to be like 8 times his budget, right? And that's the minimum, that's the floor. So it didn't make any sense. But in getting to my point, I still spent like 30 minutes on the phone with him, just to help him out, just because he was so confused. And I told him what I would do in his situation. I told him, some things he could do from his website, from the pricing and all this sort of thing. I told him that, and I told him he shouldn't be paying someone at this stage. Like, when you got $100 a month to spend, you got to be putting in as much sweat equity as possible, right? There's no extra money to pay people when the budget is that thin. And so I told the guy, essentially go a completely different strategy. His idea was that it's several books put together, so that's why it's $250 instead of like what a normal book costs, which is what, $15, right? That's a normal book price. And I said, he needs to give away, you need to break it up. You need to give away that first book for free. Give something of value to people in exchange for an email address. That way you get something, and as your list gets bigger and bigger, you can upsell other parts of the book to your list. And that's the way I would have got it. Like, brought the pricing way down, first of all, because no one ever is going to pay $250 for an ebook. Not even Bill Gates. Bill Gates, with all the money in the world, he's not going to pay $250 for an ebook. And Bill Gates, he doesn't know how much things cost at a grocery store. And so I'm sure he doesn't know the price of a normal ebook. But even Bill Gates knows $250 for an ebook is ridiculous. Ridiculous. So I told him, grow that list, give away a part of the book for free, grow that list, and then sell, try to upsell other parts of the book for a reasonable price. $4, right? $4 is a reasonable ebook price. So anyway, so I spent like 30 minutes on the phone with a guy who I'm never going to make any money from. And I find that this is relatively common. And I don't know if it's like the good-natured part of me wants to just help people. I think that's what it is. I'll be surprised if I get any sort of ROI from this stuff long term. But keep in mind that if you do a knowledge-based service, people are going to want free advice. Or people are going to approach you and you think to yourself, dear God, I gotta at least point them in the right direction, get them going in the right direction. And I guess it's up to everyone to decide how much time they want to spend doing it. At this point, I've probably spent a good 20 hours this year, like giving away free consultations or trying to point startups or new businesses in a direction I think is the right direction when it comes to their online marketing and their online presence. But that surprised me. I did not expect that when I first started out, but it's real. It's real, and you got to either help them out or don't help them out, right? There's just two options. Right now I choose to help people out. So, some big news in the advertising agency world. Everyone's heard of WPP, which is Martin Sorrell's. It's an advertising holding company. So he owns WPP, and WPP owns so many different companies. So many different companies that I went to WPP's website and looked at all the companies they own, and it's page after page after page after page after page after page after page of different advertising companies, data companies, PR companies. I mean, you name it. I mean, WPP owns a stake in Vice. They own a stake in ad networks. They own a stake in so much. And so Martin Sorrell's leaving after what, like 33 years of running the company, which is probably for the best. I get the feeling that, after 33 years, maybe you got a little complacent, or maybe it's time to shake things up a little bit, because, you look at WPP, and if you're an agency owner like myself, you think, maybe one day they'll pay me a bunch of $1 million for my agency, right? That's like the hope, right? Is you look at WPP as the people who fund exit strategies for agency owners. But by the way, fun fact, WPP, I did not know this till I looked it up, stands for Wire and Plastic Products. Wire and Plastic Products. That's what WPP stands for. The biggest advertising agency holding company in the world stands for Wire and Plastic Products. What is that? What is that? You own an advertising agency holding company, and that's the name you come up with. You couldn't rebrand to anything better. And granted, I think he founded WPP in like 85 or 83 or something like that. Still, even in 1985, you got to know, Wire and Plastic Products is not a great name for an advertising holding company. It's just not. It's just not. And I mean, what's in a name, really, right? But still, come on. Also, the WPP website, worst website ever. Worst website ever. How dare you own 1 million different advertising agencies and have the worst website ever? And I get it. The WPP site, is maybe more for careers and investors, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's so bad. It's so bad. It shows me just how potentially bureaucratic these large companies are. Like, no one thinks that, we own all these advertising agencies and we pitch clients on being the best in X, Y, and Z, but yet our website looks like it was built in 2001 by a college student, by an intern. And, I judge companies based on the quality of their websites. Might not be fair, but if I don't know your company that well, all I got to go off of is the website, whatever content you post. And it's so bad, such a bad website. So bad. Anyways, I think this is good for WPP long term. I know their stock tanked like 5% on the news, but I think it's good long term for them. Get them out of there, put them out to pasture. He built his company, and he's not one of those guys that was like, I came from humble roots. I believe that he got his start, or at least WPP got his start, by him buying a basket company. That's where Wire and Plastic Products comes from. He bought a basket company and then was like, I'm going to turn this into an advertising holding company. Clearly his strategy evolved over the years. But man, such a bad name, such a bad website. Hey, WPP, I will build you a new website. Just pay me. Just pay me. I will get you a website that is 10x better than what you currently have. Just make it rain dollars. No, they're probably never going to even talk to me after seeing this, if they ever see this. But I want to touch on Screaming Frog SEO. So this, in no way do I have any sort of relation with this company. They are an SEO software company based in England. Never talked to anyone there. don't know, no communication, no relationship. But I do use their product, and I'm a big fan of their product. If you do anything SEO related, Screaming Frog SEO is so helpful. It's so helpful. So helpful. So basically, in a nutshell, it'll crawl a website, your website, a competitor's website, your mom's website. It'll crawl any sort of website, and when it crawls, it returns a bunch of information. It could be as simple as like title tags, meta descriptions. It could be image files. It can be like JavaScript. It allows you to crawl a website and really get a peek under the hood of what's going on, right? And it's just so useful when it comes to doing SEO work, especially if your website's large. If your website's large, it's very helpful. If if you have a 5-page website, it's kind of like whatever. But if you have a large domain with many pages, it's good. It's so good. It's so good. So I would recommend, if you have a large website, if you are into SEO, if you do anything in the e-com SEO space, check out Screaming Frog. It's free. First of all, it's free. I mean, there's a paid version too, but for a lot of websites, for most websites, the free version will be fine. So check it out. Go download it for free and try it out. And tell me it's not the most helpful SEO tool you've ever had. I love Moz. I'm a huge Moz fan, huge Rand Fishkin fan, huge Whiteboard Friday fan. But this is the best crawling tool on the internet. So, and then I want to talk about closing analytics gaps. And we'll end on this, or maybe we won't. Who knows? All right, so most companies, most e-com companies, if you spend a lot of money on digital marketing, most of the time you have good analytics around it. Most of the time you do. I would at least hope so. But when I talk to companies that have large advertising budgets, they've got the necessary things in place because they're spending $1 million a month or $500,000 a month on digital marketing. And so they want to make sure that they can measure results. It makes sense. You typically don't spend $1 million and not measure it unless you're a giant company who just doesn't care, right? There's so few companies like that. But I still find there's analytics gaps. There's data gaps, right? And some of the most common data gaps that I find are chat conversions and phone call conversions, right? Capturing that traffic source wise all the way down to the most granular level, or tying phone calls back into the most granular level possible. Those are the two biggest analytics gaps. And those can be a motherfucker to solve, especially if you're not willing to pay for the right solution or to spend the necessary time. But it is huge. If chat sales or phone calls make up a giant portion of your revenue, or like maybe even 20%, right? You're missing 20% of your data. Without that 20% of your data, it makes it much harder for people like me to optimize your advertising to make it the best it can be, right? What is it? Be all you can be in the army? Well, close analytics gaps and your advertising will be all it can be. All right. But yet, so it's super common still to have those two gaps. And my favorite, I've got a good example. So, large e-commerce company spending like $1.2 million a month digital marketing, and they get 20% of their phone calls from chat. They get 20% of their sales from phone calls and chats, right? It's a good amount. So you're spending, what is it? 1.2 million, like $15 million a year in digital marketing. It's a lot. It's a lot. No one's going to say it's not. So I go to the CEO and I say, hey, your advertising is going well. Things X, Y, and Z are happening. This is what we're seeing, all this stuff. But we need to close this gap. And here's why. Because it'll, once we have this information, it'll make it X, Y, and Z more efficient, etc. And I got okay, find a solution, give me the cost. Okay, so I ran the numbers, found solutions, and the cost was something like, I don't know, $20,000 a month. It was a lot. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot. But in the context of spending $1.2 million a month, okay, it's nothing. It's nothing. In your budget, it is nothing. I know it's a lot. I know you could hire, 4 new employees for that, or 5 new employees, or whatever. But they just see that the CEO saw the cost. He saw the cost, and he was like, no, we're not doing this. And I tried to explain the best I could that with this investment into closing the analytics gap, we can make or save so much money over here that it's going to dwarf the $20,000 a month. If we just make our advertising 3% more efficient, boom, there's the $20,000 a month. ROI positive right away. So when you have a data gap, it's especially if you make sizable investments into digital marketing, it makes sense. You gotta track all the touch points, right? From the very first time they were exposed to your company online, all the way till closing, and tying it back to the right campaign or keywords or search terms or ad or platform. You got to map that out. It's like a big black box of question marks if you don't. And it's kind of like when you're trying to influence the advertising without the data, you're pulling levers and you sort of know what's going to happen, but it's way more of a guessing game than you'd like. Without data, it becomes more of a guessing game. The more data you have, it becomes more of precision, science, and like operating with a scalpel and not a chainsaw. And if you operate with a scalpel, you're going to have much better results than with a chainsaw. Am I right? So, same principle applies to digital marketing. All right. And I want to give a shout out to CallRail. They're my favorite when it comes to tracking phone calls, right? Closing that attribution gap. They are a great solution. Dialogue Tech is another one. And Call Tracking Metrics, the most SEO name I've ever heard. That's another good solution. So if you're looking to close that, check out those 3 companies. They're all great. They get my stamp of approval. CallRail is my personal favorite, but to each his own. All right. So I want to plug my agency just for a second. I always do that at the end of these. So Shade Digital is a digital marketing agency that specializes in traffic acquisition, driving traffic to your website, and that's free and paid strategies, right? Organic and advertising. And then helping those website visitors convert into customers at a higher rate. So drive the traffic, help the users to convert. Those are our 2 core services. We also do a little design here and there for our clients, but those are our core services. We just launched our Eat What You Kill pricing. So Eat What You Kill pricing is revenue share agreements, cost per sale agreements, cost per lead agreements. This is how you beat lazy advertising agencies. When you do a cost per lead or cost per sale or revenue share agreement, you're aligning the interests of the client and the agency together. You're both rowing in the same direction, right? So if what I get paid as the agency is tied to directly how much you make as the client, as the business, hey, I want to make more money. You want to make more money? All right, let's row this boat together then. But so many agencies charge on a retainer base, on a hourly rate, which has a reverse incentive, right? And I feel like that's part of the reason why a lot of agencies are struggling, is they haven't aligned the incentives between advertiser and and agency. Yeah. So anyways, call this phone number for a free quote, free consultation. Go to our website, shadedigital.com, and fill out a contact form, and we can get started working together and making it rain together. All right. If you like this video, subscribe, like, share, comment. I love seeing new subscribers. So if you subscribe, you're making my day. And this has been Ryan McDonald at Shade Digital, wishing you the best. All right. Thank you. Bye.